History in the making. Healing to be awakened. Yeah, you are the star of your story at Let's Talk and Grow with Miss Roshumba.
My son is born on a Wednesday. Seen and felt because they are the largest group. And so
we got your back. No, we're not perfect.
So now you know it's time to grow at Let's Talk and Grow with Miss Roshumba. Let the healing begin.
So welcome back to part 2 of Let's Talk and Grow with Miss Roshumba. We're continuing to talk with Miss Jeleana J. Talking about her story, telling her story so that we can heal. This is part 2. And so, you see, she's ready to go. You saw her, hey, I hope you saw her. Yeah. She is ready to go. So, Miss Jeleana.
Yes, dear.
Yeah, let's continue talking. You were mentioning how Mom and her brother, how they work to cohabitate and work together for the goodness of their family, because Mom was busy working.
Yes.
So in essence, they were young people doing adult people work because of the times.
Yes.
And one thing I want the audience to know, our evolution after our enslavement, of 159 years after, leading up to where we are now, a lot of what happened is, our parents had to go to work. And the society didn't care what happened to the children when they went to work. So some of the things that come out of it, no parent in their right mind wants to see their children doing things that aren't correct. But as we know, we can't be in all places at all times. And, here we are in the 21st century, and just this conversation alone is a heads up for those that could reach out and help that young couple, help that young family, that young single mom or that young single father that needs aid in raising their children as we work through the problem. As we work through the problem in our society, we need each other. So this is part of why this show is extremely important. So time is ticking. Okay. Can you hear it? So please continue to tell me what happened with your mom and
my uncle
and your uncle.
Well, as you alluded to earlier about accepting responsibility that actually belonged to adults.
Yes.
My mom's attitude was that she was growner than the years that she had lived because of all the responsibility that she had taken. She also became a bit of a bully and determining to have her way.
Yes.
My grandmother was a staunch, diehard, no change, ever Catholic.
Okay.
So her children were brought up going to church, doing all the obligatory type of things that they needed to do as a Catholic family. Mother was put through her first communion and confirmation, so was my uncle. But still, my grandmother having to work would leave them alone for hours.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
My grandmother, she encouraged her to get music lessons. She encouraged her to learn how to crochet, which my mom never did pass on me. I got this on my own.
Okay. Okay.
But
so your grandmother could afford to get your mom into different programs during that time because she worked hard.
She worked hard, and then as she built property and got it rented, then my mom would be the one to collect the rent and all of that.
Okay.
But what I see is that in my way of thinking, I know my grandmother had to know what was going on between
brothers and sisters.
Brother and sister. Mm-hmm. I just, in my way of looking at it, she had to know. Well, when Mom was about 13 or 14 years old, she'd gotten pregnant, and my grandmother was consumed with how could she help alleviate this problem. She knew my father's older sister, who was the oldest of the entire family, and she was a hard worker. She had a laundromat, a restaurant, she owned property, and she was always keeping the family involved in the business.
Okay, so let me understand. So your grandmother knew of someone on your father's side.
Yes.
His older sister.
Yes.
And maybe because they were both hard workers, they knew each other in that way. Okay, so what happened with that connection?
This is how I surmise it to
Okay.
be. When my grandmother knew that my mom was pregnant, she asked...
With your uncle?
With my uncle's child. She knew it was his.
Okay.
Because you just can't live like that and not know what's going on.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
This is going on in my head.
Right.
My aunt and my grandmother put together a scheme, as I call it, for my father and my mother to marry. Because my dad was spoiled. He had ladies galore.
Okay.
Falling off the...
Okay.
And he was...
Playa!
And he was a good-looking man.
Okay. And how old was he about? Do you know around that time?
He had to be about 20, 21, somewhere around in that area.
Because your grandmother was what age when she was pregnant? About?
She was 13 or 14 years
Okay.
old.
Okay. So,
She used to brag about having all her children by the time she was 19. So you figure out the timeline.
Okay.
Okay. So my grandmother sent my mom to Louisiana because she didn't have any other way of handling the situation, hoping that things would work out. But she came back home, and my aunt and my grandmother connived together and got my father and my mother married. The first child was stillborn.
So the baby for her brother came out stillborn.
Yes.
After they had married.
After they had married.
Okay.
And then my mom got pregnant with me.
Okay. So audience, I hope you're following everything keenly as Sister Jeleana tells her story. You know, there is lessons being told in what she's sharing today. And cover-ups and, but it's not for us to really judge. It's for us to look inwardly at how life could unfold. I must say to you, intermittently, I'm just going to pause to show respect to our sister here as she delve into what we usually keep in treasure chests, what our ancestors often go to their grave and not say anything about. Oftentimes, it's out of shame, and the shame and the pain of wanting something wholesome for their family but not being able to do it. Oftentimes, it has to do with our evolution from our enslavement. So our society says, get over what happened way back then, but if it's in your DNA, we have to end up having to work it out. And so, again, I want to honor you sharing your most private, intimate story with us today. Okay? So
and
thank
I
you.
thank you. I thank you for that. The other side to that, in my way of understanding, is I've got to be free.
Say it loud, they could hear you. Did you hear her, audience? She says what?
I've got to be free.
Got to be free.
I wish that I could have set my sister free. I wish I could have set my brother free. But evidently it was only the universe to set me free.
Mm.
If you judge me for telling this, so be it.
Speak to the camera, sister. Tell them.
If you judge me for telling this, so be it. Because I'm free.
Yes.
And what I know about life and the years that I have lived, that story is no secret to the world because it has happened so
Yes.
many times.
Yes.
And it really doesn't have anything to do with being black or white or any other thing, because we are created creatures of this planet.
Thank you for that.
You're more than
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all human beings under pressure will break, will show that we have limitations.
Yes.
You know, so thank you for clarifying all of that.
Yes.
So tell us now, Daddy is now into the life of Mommy, and from that you are born, that
Yes.
union.
Yes. Now,
Dad is 10 years older than Mom.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Mom is totally possessive of Dad, and not ever having had a father. Now, this is a summation that I come up with. Not ever having had a father around her, she acted and looked to him to be her father as well as her husband, you know. And she didn't have the skill set of being a wife or mother. It was a dynamic that she never accomplished.
Okay, how to be a good wife
How to be a good wife.
to her husband,
To
your
her
father.
husband, my
So
father.
let me ask you a question. Her brother, what happened to he? Did he still kind of lingered around in her heart in a way that she could not really dismiss that was obviously like her first love?
Yes. My grandmother, as I said, was very progressive with working hard. She purchased a home in Los Angeles and the property right next door to it. And it was a beautiful lot. There were fig trees and plum trees and nectarine and peaches.
Wow.
And there was a big garden in there. And I could just, as a kid, I would just lay up and climb the fig tree and just start eating figs. And then my grandmother had the property next door to it. She had a home built at the back of the property, and the piece that was in the front, the house was big enough to make and convert it into a duplex.
Yes.
That's where my uncle lived.
Wow.
And I used to see my mom, I'm only about 5 or 6 years old. I would see her get up and get my father off to work, and then she'd go over to where my uncle was. And Mama, why? It didn't dawn on me until I was grown what was occurring.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
if he had a girlfriend spend the night with him,
Mom was not happy.
Mama was not having it. She was go off completely. And at that age, 4 or 5 years old,
You
I didn't
know
understand
why.
it.
Yeah.
But then when I got older, yeah, bam!
It started to make sense.
It started to make sense. And then my uncle had a girlfriend that they had 2 children. And because they weren't married, my grandmother never accepted them at all. Never. And my mom always tortured my uncle because of him having
2
children with another woman.
Did they live together, the other woman and your uncle?
No, they didn't.
Okay, so
They
it was
didn't.
just kind of out of wedlock somewhere, and
Yeah.
grandmother.
She was not having it.
because she's very Catholicist
Yes.
and religious based. And,
Yes, she wasn't having it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, thank you for elaborating on that. And so, mom and dad tried their best to make it work and gave birth to other children.
2 other children.
Okay. So you're the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
Is it a girl or a boy or?
The next one behind me is a girl, and then the boy.
Okay.
And my mom is a perpetual disturber. I don't know how else to say it. And they argued all the time.
Okay.
And what would happen is somehow I would always be in the middle between the 2 of them. And if I tried to move away from that, it would be, I'd get snatched back into it. Well, this is when she's having a fit of rage about whatever. I don't even know what it was about. She broke this arm, snatching me as a result of arguing with my father. And so I had to have a cast put on. And the next time she did it, she broke my arm again. Then, by this time I was like maybe 4, 5 years old, somewhere around in there. And when they started arguing, I got smart and started moving out the door.
Yeah.
Get outside.
Yeah.
Get away from it. She came out and said, "What are you doing?" And the look on my face must have said something to her, that her spirit, and she backhanded me. And I slid across that wooden porch, and that's how I lost my eye.
And you lost your eye from it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, audience. Let's pause there. Let's pause there. As she tells her story and the challenges that she had to grow up and experience. And to those out there in the YouTube universe and the universe as a whole that will one day hear this story, let's pause there and just recognize what we have come out of, what she had to come out of to be here today at the hands of those that loved her and through the pain that was going on with them. So a moment of silence, I feel, is always necessary. Thank you for sharing that, Miss Jeleana. Thank you for sharing that, because it's not
But I'm not
easy.
the only one who suffers or who has suffered those kinds of incidents. As I've lived, I've learned people have gone through things. We do things to ourselves or to our children that are unthinkable.
Yes.
You know, and sometimes you can get stuck with the blame of whatever occurred, trying to get some kind of reconciliation is the word you want to use. I recognize it was a waste of my time. Let it go.
Let it go. I guess I wanted to pause there for those that are going through it still to this day.
Yes.
That is going through it as a child, going through it as the perpetrator, the adult, to pause.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you see, they could see, hopefully, by hearing your story, they could see where it's going is not a good way.
No.
And yet, you survived to tell it.
Yes.
And, so hopefully it's a healing mechanism is what I hope for those in the universe that are listening to hear. So, part 2. I'm going to pause it. And you're going to have to tune in to part 3 to get the rest of the story. You know I'm a poet. And this is the way it usually shows it.
Yes.
So, on part 3, we will go more deeper in the abuse that occurred in her life as she grew up from a small baby on up, toddler. So this is Let's Talk and Grow with Miss Roshumba. And the title of the show is No More Tears, No More Fears, with Jeleana Johnson telling her story. So this is a good opportunity to thumbs up, leave a comment, share, and tune in for part 3. Let's Talk and Grow with Miss Roshumba.
So now you know it's time to grow at Let's Talk and Grow with Miss Roshumba. Let the healing begin.